I would totally do it.
Are we already having it? That's not supposed to happen until after 8.
Nope.
I'm the victim here.
I am the victim. Do not blame me.
Hey, where's the button?
The only button I have is
So you just have to lock it. You can mute someone.
yeah, I've never done it. I really want to.
Yeah. You can't waste a good button.
I know.
Did you ever mute someone, Jackie?
Elector. There's a mute button.
Can you mute?
It just says
them?
elector mute. So I'm just assuming it's that. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Shannon Scott from Grace Baptist Church for our invocation.
Let's pray together. Father, we thank you for this opportunity together tonight in this place, Lord, where business is conducted for our city. I'm very mindful tonight that there are people in here that may have needs, and needs maybe that only you can address and help them with. Lord, financial needs, physical needs, spiritual needs, mental needs, emotional, whatever it might be, family concerns. I pray that you would be ever near each and every person. Lord, that you would answer the need of their heart tonight, whatever it may be, in a very special way. And then we're mindful of the business that would take place here tonight with our city leaders, our council, Lord, interested parties, representatives from the city. I just pray that the business that's conducted here tonight would be with your blessing, and that you would help each and every person that speaks or has a part in this business meeting tonight, the council meeting, and that you'd be at the center of it all. We thank you for what you do. Thank you for your blessings. Meet with us now, I pray, in a special way. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, Mayor.
Please stand and join me for the pledge. Ready? Begin. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the city council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver it to the city clerk staff prior to the item being heard by city council. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city residence for the record. This evening, there are no proclamations, recognitions, or presentations, so move on to the meeting minutes. The city council meeting of June 7th, 2023. Ms. Duarte. Good to see you here tonight. Are there any speaker cards from the public meeting minutes?
Good to see you too, sir. No, there are no speaker cards.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Already? Please vote.
I can take your voice vote. Aye. Thank you.
Got to push the button.
Okay, that item passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council. A council member or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Would any of my colleagues like to pull an item?
No, sir.
Nope.
Okay. Ms. Duarte, do we have any speaker cards from the public?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Please vote.
I vote aye.
Steiner and Steve will be fighting all evening over the record.
Okay, moving on to communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Duarte, do we have any speaker cards from the public?
Yes, Mayor, we have 2.
Okay, come on down.
Evening, Mayor Daddario, Vice Mayor Richins, and council members. I'm Maddie Paxton. I am Corona District 1.
Good evening.
Good evening. What I want to talk about again is RSO, the Rent Stabilization Ordinance. And I'm kind of a numbers nerd. My background, when I was in college, I had a job through the university working with the Navy. I was a statistician. So I like to play with numbers. And I suddenly got this wild idea of how many people are we talking that we might be impacted by? So I'm sure that the people doing this know exactly what these numbers are, but I'm going to just put it in a different format. Get that out of my way. In District 1, can you hear me this way? In District 1, we have 3 mobile home parks for a total of 371 spaces. And do be aware that a lot of the parks put aside 1 unit, 1 space for their managers. So that may be included in the count and it might not, but we're only talking 1. In District 2, we have a total of 4 mobile home parks for 330 spaces. For District 3, there's 2 mobile home parks for a total of 109 spaces. District 4, there's 1 mobile home park for a total of 333 spaces. There are none in District 5, and maybe we can ask the council member representative to see what we can do with all the beautiful homes that are going in, again, to put something as a little bit, more affordable for the first rung of home ownership. So adding all of those together, there's a total of 1,143 households that are impacted. I didn't know if it'd be hundreds or thousands, but thereabouts the number. And then I was figuring about how many people would be impacted. And I used the figure of 1.5, meaning that some of the homes have 1 person, some of them have a lot more with families. So I think it's very conservative to use the number of 1.5. And that number comes out to about 1,720 people that are impacted. So just again, if something should happen somewhere along the line where these become unaffordable, there are a lot of people that could be impacted. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Eugene Physique. I do live at Green River Mobile Home Park. I am a resident of Corona, and I also thank Maddie for all her work for the rent stabilization. The comment I come tonight with is consequences. I'm tired of people not being held accountable, running stop signs, kids hitting their parents and can't do nothing about it, drugs transactions on the streets, and the poor policemen can't do much. They let back out on the streets. This is worse than the cowboy days. And I would like to see a consequence city here in Corona. That yes, we do care about our good citizens. We are not going to allow you to be abused and intimidated by those other people who are rewarded for their bad behavior. What are we teaching our children in our schools? It's okay to beat your grandmother and kill your parents? No. We want a good citizenship and a good township where we can forget about our different types of races and everything, that we can respect each other for our differences. And that's what I came to say tonight. And my neighbor is being evicted, and I found out from him tonight, I asked him to come this evening, that there's about 70 of them got eviction notices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to talk about short-term rentals again. I feel very frustrated that I feel like we're getting a lot of pushback from the city regarding issuing citations, violations, whatever it may be. There's a lack of consistency going on. The policies, I'm sure we all know, are lacking and need to be reviewed and adjusted accordingly. I feel like you guys hear us. The city employees, not so much. They're very short now. And our frustration is just growing and growing. And I don't know what else we can do to show that this is a blight on our city. I had the pleasure of meeting a few neighbors of other Airbnbs. I spoke to them and I learned their stories, and what we are in for is not fun. So a neighbor of another Airbnb gave me a letter, and I would like it read, of course, so you guys can see what they've experienced this far. It's just another example of what is to come when it's poorly run and the owners are completely disrespectful to neighbors, neighborhoods, and the city of Corona in itself. They lie and are given what appears to be a little bit of a preferential treatment. So that's all I needed to say. Our frustration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say thank you for coming in and sharing your story and continuing to email us. And Mr. Ellis, I know it's on the future agenda item for us to review. And I know it's bounced around a little bit. I would hope that, I think it's back to TBD. It had a date, and I think it's back to TBD this week. Does it have a date now? Yeah, so we had a date, so I would appreciate it if we could get that moved up. Thank you.
Joe Morgan, 2063 Rent. I want to give you a little update on our neighborhood situation. The poltergeist house at 2115 Wren. Apparently, he's trying to sell a story to the staff that the mold and the water that's percolating up through the middle of the slab is all somehow related to the tenant overwatering the lawn. And so my main concern is that once he goes and patches it all up, and he got a permit to fix some drywall, put some tile on the bathtub, and replace a banister, that the next tenants that he's going to try to rent this place are going to end up in the hospital just like the previous tenants did. This house is riddled with mold. It's falling apart. When I was in it, it smelled as bad or worse than some of the homeless areas that I've seen, that I've been in. It smelled much worse than the pool down City Park, after it burned partway. It was nasty, and there was water coming up through the slab, and the moisture had riddled the house so badly that it was picked up in the return air of the AC and blown through the attic of the house. Then he had the ducts cleaned and blew the black mold through the house. So at which point the dog ended up getting sick as well. So he's playing games, and it's gonna, I'm not gonna sit there and watch another neighbor go through what my previous neighbors went through. We need to make sure that, and in the housing market that we have, that somebody's gonna try to rent this house. Somebody's gonna be living in this house. It's been marked as an uninhabitable structure. And he shouldn't be able to get by changing a vanity and go, yeah, for the 9th time we fixed the slab leak, it's fine. It's fine. So I'm hoping that we're better than this, that we don't fall for this nonsense, that there is a process in place, that if somebody comes in and says, yeah, this house is messed up and it needs fixed, that it doesn't, that a little bit of spackle and a little bit of paint doesn't suffice to then put another family in danger, just like Brooke and Steve's family, and just like their kids. To put a toddler in the hospital, to put a 9-year-old in the hospital. You know this family, Wes. So, and it's turned their lives upside down and basically put them on the edge of being homeless. They spent thousands of dollars in hotel expenses, fighting back and forth with insurance companies and stuff. It's just a nightmare, and I don't want to see that happen to somebody else. So I'm hoping that we're, I'm not one to trade off on private favors, and I'm not going to go in and talk to people that I know and try to do this. I'm going to say it in public, just like I always do, that something needs to happen with this situation and situations like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Duarte, is there any more speaker cards?
No, sir, but we do have 4 written comments.
Okay, could you please read them into the record?
Of course.
Thank you.
We live and know for a fact the nuisance of having a B&B on our street. Our beautiful, quiet neighbor quickly became a noisy, trash-ridden mess. The renters mostly have absolutely no regards for the neighbors. The renters and guests that show up do not follow the guidelines, if they have any, as far as parking or loitering. After a weekend, our yards and lawns have beer cans, food, paper cups, and dirty diapers to wake up to. They have no consideration of our property and use all the parking in front of our homes and block our driveways. I live at the end of a cul-de-sac, and they double park when they have weddings and big parties. Another nuisance is when the party has finally ended, they then sit on our lawns and drink and talk till early morning. I would never report to the police because I would be afraid of retaliation. I know if any of you council members had one of these B&B properties on your street or next street, you would understand our frustration. Please help us and clean up this problem for me and all other taxpayers who live in Corona and enjoyed our quiet neighborhood before these B&B properties took over. Thank you, Bessie Lee Burrell.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie, and I've been a resident of Corona since 2004. My husband bought our home in November of '98 when it came time to make the decision of selling or staying before we got married. We opted to stay. One of the many reasons is because the neighborhood is so quiet, serene, and established. I live at Adobe Avenue and recently found out that the house directly next to mine at 2108 Adobe Avenue is an Airbnb. This bothers me for several reasons. For instance, the chances of my property value will decrease are high. Secondly, we are now not aware of who is coming and going from this home. We have young families that walk their babies in their carriages every day. We have families with children that choose to play in the front yard. We have senior citizens that let's face it, may sometimes have forgotten to close their garage doors. We have people that walk their dogs, runners, joggers. We as a neighborhood watch out for each other. We know our neighbors and cherish where we live. We appreciate and respect each of our neighbors. The city of Corona, the Crown City, does not need Airbnbs. I urge the council to place a ban on Airbnbs as well as revoke any current permits. I feel rentals of this sort have the potential of increasing crime, not to mention the disrespect for our neighborhood, such as leaving trash, having loud parties, loud cars, excessive people, etc. If the city allows this, then a task force needs to be in place for the specific issues of the Airbnbs 24/7, because problems don't always arise between the hours of 9 to 5. We are hardworking people that pay our taxes, that take pride in our home and neighborhood, and deserve the respect of a quiet, established, respectful neighborhood. Adobe Avenue does not have the room for an Airbnb. Respectfully, Stephanie.
Hello, the Wasatch Motel again had yelling and screaming all day last Thursday and Saturday. It is simply not normal to live next door to people constantly partying and on vacation. The police are not going to stop people from using their pools and yards. Vacationers are not going to be quiet and respectful. There is no one managing or supervising this 24/7. There is no break for the neighbors. Another group arrived today. We never know who is coming or going. That's a huge safety issue. It's just constant noise every week. It remains the only yard making noise. We cannot even use our own yards or make any plans because we never know what's going to happen at the motel. Many times we cannot even have our windows open. Other times we can hear the screaming even with all of our windows closed. We are a very close and tight neighborhood. We all know each other. We are all home a lot. We don't need all of these strangers coming and going all the time. They have no consideration to the neighbors. They are not coming here to tour Corona. They are coming here to have yard and pool parties. Respectful neighbors know how to use their pools without the constant screaming. The last renters had someone named Jessica, and they were making s'mores on Saturday night. Why do we need to know that? How do we know? Because they were screaming it. Apparently, one of the neighbors' homes has now been designated as the motel check-in area without that neighbor's permission. Apparently, now it's okay for the renters to park there as long as it's for motel check-in and for a short amount of time. That's a huge liability for that neighbor, and it's not in the code, so not sure where that exception came from. The owners lied to the city again, saying check-in was around 7:30 p.m. or so, because video clearly shows those renters actually arrived and checked in about 2 hours earlier. So they again knew street parking was not allowed, and they did it anyway and got away with it. Why are renters coming here with U-Haul trailers? Why are renters coming here with pickup trucks with mattresses on top? We don't need these eyesores in our beautiful community. Clearly, they continue to be over occupancy, yet they keep getting away with it. Don't you agree we've had enough and it's time to shut it down? If you don't agree, then please explain why. You can't run a city on fear. We are Corona residents. We vote for the city council. Our lives really should matter more. There is no law that says the city has to allow this nuisance, and many cities don't. Corona really needs to put the well-being of its residents higher than the wants and greed of Oregon residents, destroying a Corona neighborhood for profit. We get the owners don't want or like our complaints. We're sick of it too. We get the owners are trying to play nice with the city even though they've been caught in many lies. We get that the Oregon owners want to continue to make profit. None of this matters. They haven't run it properly from the beginning. They made a bad business decision, and that should not be the city's concern. They picked the wrong neighborhood to destroy. It's not appropriate here. Please shut it down. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Here we are 8 months later, still coming to you for help with the Wasatch Motel nuisance and constant disturbances. Many of our questions and emails received no response. We would like to please know why short-term rentals went from to be determined to the August agenda back to be determined. We would like to please know why, after all this time, anyone thinks these Oregon owners actually care about this neighborhood when clearly they don't. They have repeatedly been told the current rules and continue to allow their party renters to break the rules. Even though the rules in place really do not protect the neighbors, there are still some rules and they should be followed. Continuing to ask the neighbors to contact the Oregon owners is simply not reasonable. It's confusing why the city will not be taking every opportunity to fine them for violations. It's confusing why this permit was even approved in a quiet, private neighborhood that's 20 minutes from the freeway and why it hasn't been revoked yet. There have been more than enough proven code violations. We didn't purchase homes here so that it could be turned into Grand Central Station. Every time we tell someone a motel moved in next door, they always say, "Wow, I'm so sorry, that really stinks." Why is the city allowing it? No one ever says, "Wow, that's awesome." I hope one moves in next door to me. People that do not live in the neighborhood simply have no respect for the neighborhood, especially when on vacation. Expecting everyone to be respectful and have common sense is just not realistic. We need and deserve the peace and enjoyment of our own homes back. The city did not advise any of the neighbors when we purchased our homes that this was going to be allowed. The city did not notify all of the neighbors or ask for feedback from the neighbors prior to approving this permit. In fact, the city received numerous complaints and requests for it to be shut down while it was still operating illegally, and then rewarded their inappropriate and illegal behavior with the permit. We've been told Big Bear cares about their neighbors and sends out letters and shows consideration to the neighborhood before approaching and renewing permits, and that's a tourist location. Our quiet Corona neighborhood is not a resort or tourist location. Associations require immediate neighbors' approvals prior to allowing certain improvements to a home, such as paint and windows. Why would a city allow a commercial motel in a residence knowing it destroys neighborhoods and no one wants to live next door to one? Why did the city do this to us? If the city really feels that our complaints are not valid, then why not help these Oregon owners move their motel to another neighborhood that would enjoy it, and then maybe no complaints would come in? We deserve to have our lives back. Please put a stop to the Wasatch Motel nightclub and frat house. We simply do not need or want this here. We cannot just continue to complain by email and at these meetings with no result. We really need to know when the city intends to put a stop to it. Please understand that even though we are being disrespected, we want to stay respectful, but we are also out of patience. Thank you.
No, there isn't, Mayor, and all 4 written comments will be filed with the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to administrative reports. Oh, I'm sorry, public hearings, there are none. Administrative reports. The adoption of the City of Corona proposed budget for fiscal year 2024, as well as related contract amendments, change orders, and purchase orders. Julie Cunnicutt, Budget Manager, will present the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We made it. I'm happy to present to you the fiscal year 2024 budget for adoption. We've previously presented preliminary information to you back in May, and we have a few changes that have been incorporated since that presentation last month. We will go over the fiscal year 2024 budget overview, the water and sewer utility funds, and then we will end with a general fund, including Measure X and the general fund forecast. The strategic goals were the building blocks for the budget this year. I know we've spoke a lot about them, so we won't go over them in detail. I just wanted to reiterate that this was the framework used when building the budget for the next fiscal year. This is a representation of the budget process for fiscal year 2024. The department started preparing their information in January and February. That information was provided to the Finance Department in March, and that is when the review and consolidation of the budget information began. In April, we had the Spring Financial Workshop, and the CFD and LMD process was happening concurrently. Last month, we presented the overview to you, and then in between then and now, the CIP information was presented to the Planning Commission and the Parks and Rec Commission. Tonight marks the 5th bend in the road, and I am presenting the fiscal year 2024 budget for your consideration to adopt. If adopted, we will begin the new fiscal year on July 1st. Looking at revenue estimates for all the funds, it's estimated at $439.2 million for next fiscal year. This represents an increase of just over $866,000 from the information we presented to you at the study session last month. At that time, it was $438.4 million. The increases come in general fund and capital projects. This should look familiar. The expenditures total $437.3 million for next fiscal year. There was no change between what we are showing you now and what was presented last month at the study session. Fiscal year 2024 compared to 2023 adopted was an increase of $35.4 million or 8.8%. Moving on to the proprietary funds. These are programs or activities that are supported by rates and or fees. And for tonight, we are just going to focus on the water and sewer utilities. The water utility fund also had no changes from the last time it was presented, but just to recap, it's estimated at $62.7 million in revenue. Primarily, that comes from utility service charges. There are some other items that weigh in on this, such as fees and permits, investment earnings, and current services. There is an estimated total of $67.7 in expenditures, and the difference between revenue and expenses of $5 million will use the existing fund balance, which is currently at $14.3 million. As a reminder, the spike you see in fiscal year 2023 is for that one-time settlement of $19 million that we've spoken about. Now looking at the sewer utility fund again, no changes from what was presented last month at the study session. The revenue is estimated at $33.5 million, with 94.6 of the revenue activity related to utility service charges. Similar to the water utility fund, there's investment earnings, fines, penalties and forfeitures, current services, and other revenues that contribute to this fund as well. The combined expenditures total $48.7 million, including $16.4 million in CIP funding. Just a reminder about the CIP budget and to make sure it's understood why the expenditures are exceeding the revenue. The capital projects are fully funded now, but most likely won't be fully expensed in fiscal year 24, as this is a multi-year projects. Funds are recommended for approval at the beginning of the project just to ensure the project has the allocation to proceed. In most cases, it will take multiple years for those capital projects. The fiscal year 2024 $15.2 million difference between revenue and expenses will come from the existing fund balance of $34.1 million. Any questions so far? Okay, moving on to general fund. We're taking a look at the top 5 largest categories, and those are sales tax, property tax, other taxes, current services, and other revenue. Those 5 categories make up 91.9% of the general fund inflows. Sales tax is about 45.8%, and property tax is about 28.6%. So just those 2 alone make up 74.4% of the general fund revenues. For next year, the total inflows, which is a combination of both revenues and transfers in, is estimated to be $213.7 million. That's an increase of $2.9 million when compared to the current fiscal year. And I'm sure everybody's eyes are drawn to that fiscal year 2022 actuals. That spike is due to those pension obligation bonds that we issued and how the city had to account for the bond proceeds. And this is going to skew all of our comparisons until fiscal year 22 falls off of that comparison in the 2027 budget process. This is a year-over-year comparison. It is showing the estimated fiscal year 2023 categories versus the estimated fiscal year 2024 categories and that variance with comments off to the side. I won't go through all of those, but if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer those. The proposed general fund expenditure budget is $201.7 million. Again, no change in the information since we last presented at the study session. Same information here. There's a different snapshot of the general fund expenditure budget. It shows expenditures by department and expenditure type. As you can see, personnel is the largest portion and materials and supplies is the second largest portion of the general fund expenditure budget. And then you'll see down near the bottom, we have broken out the CIP and that new O&M project category as well. Total funding in Measure X for fiscal year 2024 is $33.5 million and $10.9 million in reserves. This is a snapshot of the fiscal year 24 activity only. The 2 largest allocation categories are public safety and parks and recreation. Of the $10.9 million in reserves, $4.9 million is in the Park and Recreation Reserve in preparation for the completion of the master plans currently underway. This is a cumulative look at Measure X funding. For fiscal year 2022, the information is based on actuals, and then fiscal year 2023 and 2024 are estimates based on the current revenue projections and departments spending 100% of their Measure X funds. At the end of the fiscal year, any unspent operating funds will be added to the reserves, and then project funding will roll forward to next year. With all of the service changes and projects included, this is a snapshot that shows the breakdown of the recurring and one-time funding, as well as the Measure X reserves, showing the recurring at 55%, the one-time at 20%, and the reserves at 25%. Here's a look at the general fund forecast based on the previous information I've discussed. Inflows over outflows show a positive amount of $11.9 million. There are some adjustments for funds that will go to and from reserves, including that $10.9 million for the Measure X reserves, and that will leave us with an estimated positive balance of just under $1 million. Included with the forecast are the next 4 fiscal years with estimated revenues and expenditures based on the information we have available at this time. This information is a long-term forecast snapshot prepared by UFI Financial Solutions. It takes a look back at the business cycles that have occurred over the last 10 years and forecasts of cycles over the next 10 years. And then the scale on this graph there we go. A scale on the graph is much larger than presented in previous years, and that's due to the POB issuance in fiscal year 2022, and so they had to be able to fit that on there. Any questions so far? No? Okay. All right, so this is it. To close out the presentation, this slide is providing the total breakdown of the revenue estimates at $439.2 million. And this slide is showing the expenditure budget at $437.3 million. The next steps are to adopt the budget, which will start on July 1st of 2023. And with that, I would love to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kennicott. Mr. Spink?
I do want to, sorry. No, we are good. We are good. I just want to note to the general public that we have tools on the city website. If you want to digest and click on and learn a little bit more about the budget, it's called the General Fund at a Glance, and or not General Fund at a Glance, Budget at a Glance, the budget book. And so there's all sorts of neat little drop-down windows if you're ever curious about where the funds are coming from, what they go to, how much is in there. You can spend some time on that. So that's available. You all did a really good job of setting it up so that folks can dig in as far as they want. So thanks for doing that.
Okay. Does this require a vote? Yeah, it does. Well, the only reason I say is
Like the most important thing that
I'm
we
not
do.
reading.
I'll make a motion to spend $439 million.
No. I guess that we need to get a motion to either approve or deny the recommendation.
Make a motion.
Does it require a motion?
Yes, Mayor, and I just want to note there are no speaker cards.
Okay.
And, okay, there you go. I don't have a button, so that's okay.
I pushed the motion button
You did it.
as instructed.
You did it.
There we go. Did you-
I am a
I don't have, but I vote yes. Thank you.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Moving on to legislative matters, there are none. Boards and commission reports from city council commissioners and staff for the Library Board of Trustees report, which is a receive and file of the Library Board of Trustees report update for May 23rd, 2023. And the Planning and Housing Commission report, tentative tract map 36864 to subdivide 2.09 acres into 7 lots for residential purpose, and 1 lettered lot for street purposes located on the south side of Corona Avenue and west of Interstate 15 in the R-1-7.2 zone. Applicant, I'm going to butcher this, but Fathi Manarash? I'm terribly sorry because I really believe that I messed that up. 9319 Alta Cresta Avenue, Riverside, California 92508. Ms. Duarte, are there any speaker cards from the public?
No, Mayor, not for this item.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Is there a second? Okay, please vote.
I vote yes.
Okay. Moving on to the Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation Commission. Receive and file the Parks and Recreation Commission report update for May 9th, 2023. Regional meetings, there are none. City Attorney reports and comments. Mr. Durley.
Mayor, we do have one speaker, sorry, for item 24.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not ask for?
I did not.
No, you did not.
I'm terribly sorry. It's not on the script. Terribly sorry.
If we've got the script, just stick with the script. This is a little bitty tiny deal. Those of you who may have been watching the presidential inauguration of Joe Biden may remember there was a very charming lady that got up and read a poem And the lady's name was Amanda Gorman. The poem was called The Hill We Climb. She was dressed in a very bright yellow coat, and the poem was terrific. Anyway, the poem has made it around the country. It's in a lot of libraries. And a few weeks ago in a town in Florida, a woman with the approximate intellectual capability of a tree stump decided that she wanted the book taken out of the library where her son went to school. So she raised a ruckus, and the school district took it out of all the elementary schools. The woman later said that she only read a couple of lines of it, that she did not read the entire poem, and that she said she is, quote, not a reader and, quote, not a book person. Well, I am. So one thing I did was went down to Barnes & Noble and bought a couple of copies of the book. That was one of the first things I did. And I kept one for myself, and I'm going to give the other one to the library. And I've already had a discussion with the kind lady over there. See, she's nodding her head, yes. So I just need to take it down to the library. So I'm just going to it's a little thing. I'm just going to give a donation of the book to the local library. And I've also started a conversation with CNUSD about putting one of those books at my expense in every library and every elementary school in CNUSD. So when the dimwits want to start taking books out, I'll start trying to put them back in. So just thought I'd bring that up, and just because there was a library thing on the agenda. So that's all. Everybody have a good day, and read a book.
I will say, though, on that item, there was C, which was the In-N-Out cover-to-cover club results. I think that's one of the awesome things. I missed that part of the meeting. I did watch the meeting, and I don't know why I missed it. But it is really cool that In-N-Out does that every year, that rewards kids for every book that they read. They can earn free In-N-Out. So back when I was on the library board in 2017, I pretended to be 8 years old, and they said no, I could not get a In-N-Out burger. But yeah, it's a great program, and I wish more kids took advantage of it, because we do have a wonderful library.
All right, thank you. I believe we were on item number 26. Is that correct? The Parks and Recreation Commission report. Receive and file the Parks and Recreation Commission report update for May 9th. 2023. There are no regional meetings. Mr. Derleth brings us to you. Okay, Mr. Ellis.
Just one comment, Mayor. Today we adopted our annual budget for next year, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to our entire team. Obviously, no one more deserving than Kim Sitton, our finance director, but everybody in the city, every director, and many staff that support those directors all put a ton of work into that. It's an exciting slate of projects. There's a lot of good things coming up for fiscal year 24. Just wanted to give a shout out to the team and thank council for your support in helping us move forward with so many cool initiatives that we've got going on. Thank you.
Do my colleagues have any comments?
I just have one. I wanted to, I'll be laughing now. I wanted to note that today, Don Kindred was honored by Supervisor Spiegel's office in the Senior Legacy Award. And I was very happy to nominate Don. Learn a little bit more about him, I think, every time I hear him speak. But I did not know of all of his volunteer, besides founding the Corona Symphony Orchestra and its conservatory, where kids are learning how to play instruments that I wish I could play. But I just wanted to give a shout out to him and to Supervisor Spiegel for doing this. They recognized a resident in each city and unincorporated area that she oversees as part of the Board of Supervisors, and very pleased to see Don and his family there getting his award. So that's it. Thanks.
Councilmember? Councilwoman? Vice Mayor?
Got one announcement. I don't have a excuse me. I don't have a picture. I should have, and I apologize, but it's all over Facebook. This yesterday at the library they hung the Corona Women's Service flag, and what this is it's a flag that was constructed in World War II. It has a star for every citizen that served from Corona in World War II. It has silver stars for citizens that served, and it has gold stars for citizens that gave their life defending our country in World War II. It's only up for 30 days. If you get a chance, it's really cool to go and see. It hasn't seen the light of day in 75 years, and it's a really neat project. Thanks.
Thank you. I think, did you have a picture of it, Mr. Morgan?
We might have a picture. Oh, my picture.
There it is. The only thing that I wanted to say was that today we had the grand opening of the Corona Senior Center Nutrition Program. A couple of us were down there today. Not really. I would say that we were volunteering, but we were there mostly just talking. Tom actually did some work. So, but it was great to see our senior center thriving with seniors that were there to, be in community with their friends and check in with each other and socialize. That was the word I was looking for. They had some great meals provided. The senior nutrition program is going to provide meals Monday through Friday, 26,000 a year. So very happy that our seniors have some extra love and care and some good nutritional meals. And the exciting part of today is the next council meeting is going to be Wednesday, July 19th. And I did check that because I wanted to make sure we're going to be off for almost a month. So enjoy your time and
Don't miss the 4th of July.
don't miss the 4th of July parade and festivities. It's going to be a doozy. So thank you very much.